Welcome everyone. I am Kate from Therapy and this is Hazel from Dancing in the Rain. Hazel is a proud mum of two boys with additional needs, and she is a founder of Dancing in the Rain, which is the aim to empower parents to live a happier and positive life, providing resources and really to support parents making time for self-care and live a happier life alongside the challenges that come with having children with additional needs. So welcome, Hazel.
Hi.
So tell us a little bit about the boys. How old are they now?
So they're 5-year-old twins, nearly 6. So they've just gone into the second year at school.
Right.
One of them's in a specialist school because his needs are really high. The other one's in mainstream, currently under assessment for autism. The one that's in specialist school, it's a raft of issues. So so he's got a diagnosis which is SYNGAP1 syndrome, which is incredibly rare actually. There's about 400 in the world, although weirdly a few in this area. But basically he has issues with mobility, talking. Well, he doesn't talk. We've had issues with eating, with his joints, with epilepsy, asthma symptoms. It's been a raft of kind of everything across the board really. So yeah, it's a lot to deal with on a daily basis.
And how old were the boys when you started to recognise that they weren't developing typically?
So actually Elliot was kind of picked up in pregnancy. Right. Not the diagnosis, but he struggled during pregnancy. He struggled to grow. They were worried he wasn't getting fed, and it wasn't anything to do with being twins, because sometimes that is an issue. But yeah, about 26 weeks, they said kind of, look, there's an issue. We've got to kind of closely monitor this. So even in pregnancy, I was monitored like 3 or 4 times a week to sort of make sure they were okay. And then I had them early. So right from the start, Elliot was in special care and then under paediatricians, and then we've just kind of added people as we go along.
So when did kind of the other son, when did those become apparent?
I think it's quite funny with that, because I think if it wasn't for Elliot with all his issues, I probably wouldn't have necessarily picked up on it. But because I've kind of made sure I've educated myself, I got lots of groups, I obviously know lots of other carers, that they were talking about things, and I'm kind of sitting there going, oh, okay, this is like totally describing my son, and all of his little quirks will go with. So probably about 2 years ago, so when he was around 3, that I really started sort of, I say probably even now I'm not sure I would have noticed. I mean, we have a lot of issues, but I think they probably would have been put down as behavioural kind of thing, but yeah, there's definitely more going on. And actually as part of the assessment procedure, he's had a genetic testing, so he has a different genetic diagnosis as well. So they both have genetic conditions.
Right. How did you feel kind of during pregnancy when they told you about Elliot and the possibility that there was going to be developmental issues?
It's absolutely terrifying. I mean, the whole thing was just incredibly stressful. Like, I think it's kind of weird looking back, because they told us about like these mountain of things that could happen, and I think there's a moment in your head that you go, no, it'll be fine, and actually pretty much everything that said could happen has happened.
Right.
So yeah, that's been quite hard. That you kind of, it took a long time to kind of go through that kind of process of, I guess every mum wants a perfect child, don't they? That's probably not the best word, but like that you want that. But yeah, it's quite difficult to kind of go, right, okay, we've got all these, we're going to deal with it, this is what we're going to do now.
Yeah. And how have you felt being involved with the services? Because obviously you must have been from an early age, from when the twins were born. How have you felt with all the in-service support or lack of support that you've received?
Some have been amazing. As far as them being involved, I think I don't know any different. I don't have any other kids. I've just got my 2 boys. So actually that's kind of what our lives revolves around. We know that like every week there's probably going to be an appointment or 2.
I think I've lost you, Hazel. Did you? I think you froze on my computer there.
You got me.
Oh, you're back. Apologies for that. You went quiet there, so I didn't hear any of that bit. just repeat that bit again for us, Hazel.
So Elliot, because it's very obvious, we were quite easily picked up by most services. Some things have been a bit of a battle for, I think, possibly a slightly odd reason, is that some services wouldn't pick up because they said it was too delayed, so that the delay would override anything else.
Right.
So that was quite an interesting battle we've had to have. So literally, it's last week that we've got on the pathway for autism assessment for him.
Right.
Even though it's comorbid, usually with the genetic diagnosis, that's been probably the biggest battle for him. I've been incredibly lucky with Isaac with school. That I know a lot of people have issues, but the school have been amazing from day one. When I've gone in and sort of said, look, we think that this is that he's probably got autism, and they've literally dealt with it as though he does from that day. They've been absolutely amazing, putting stuff in for him, making sure he has all the support he needs. So yeah, the school's been incredibly good around that. And then we're still in the process of, I don't know what your area's like, but ours is horrendous for getting on waiting lists for waiting for services, particularly around autism.
Yeah, and I know that I've seen recently kind of on some social media groups that some services, there's waiting lists in the country up to 3 years.
Well, ours was 4.
It's a long time.
Yeah.
So
I've been told about a year now. Yeah.
And the assessment process itself is a long process, or certainly can be, depending on the area you live as well. So
yeah,
so
totally.
How have you looked after your self-care and your well-being during the assessments and the processes of being involved? How do you look after yourself?
I probably really didn't at first. I was working sort of nearly full time to start off with. Are you frozen now?
What is going on?
I just kind of, I guess I originally had the mentality of, well, I'm a mum, I can just do it. And I'm on my own as well. I don't really have family around, so it is just me. So I did just kind of plod on for so long, just going, I'll be fine, I can just do it, until I got to the point I was like, actually, I really, really can't. That life must be better. And then I kind of went through, I guess, a bit of an in-between phase of who can help us. That someone needs to come in and kind of fix this and do something for us. And it took me again a while to kind of go, actually, that's not going to work either. That it starts with me. That life isn't going to change. It's a challenge. It's always going to be a challenge. We will always have all these issues. Things will be difficult. However, I want a happy life. I want a happy life for me. I want a happy life for me and my boys. And I want them to grow up knowing that life's happy, that it's not all about therapy and how hard it is, that it needs to be about everything. So a few things in that. Weirdly, in one of the business groups that I was in, I kind of started talking to people around kind of mindset and stuff, which I hadn't really thought about, and I was like kind of quite dismissive of it. That you could just be positive, that actually you could just say, actually, I'm going to be all right, and today's going to be a good day, and it make any difference, because I thought that was ridiculous, but truly it does. So that was kind of my starting point, and then I've kind of worked through lots of things. I keep sticking myself on various training courses and reading and stuff. So probably the biggest thing that I make sure I put in my life is kind of mindfulness based. So living in the moment, making sure that you appreciate the here and now, be that the moment with your kids, be that, I mean, it's a daily thing. So like I make sure I do the walk to school every morning. I'm lucky enough to actually be able to, well, walk. Elliot's in a wheelchair, but be able to walk them both to school, which is quite unusual given this is a specialist school. But we make the most of that. Like all three of us are kind of looking around, making sure we're looking at trees and the weather, and just appreciating like what we have here and now, not thinking about anything else. So we're just going to have the walk, and even though it's a school walk, that we appreciate that. and we do that together. And then I don't have rafts of time. I never have rafts of time, even though I'm doing stuff for myself now rather than being employed. But just 5 minutes here and there, like if I can stick a 5-minute meditation on, which sometimes really needed, that I kind of get to point out, okay, I'm going to do this. I do go to weekly yoga, and I've been doing that kind of in lockdown and stuff. But yeah, a lot of it's around kind of just finding those 5 minutes and making sure that my mind is kind of if I'm in a better place, I can deal with the stresses more. Yeah. So I'll start off at a calmer point when it does become stressful, which is daily, that I can deal with that. I'm a better parent because I can go, okay, we can deal with this. I'm not kind of going, oh my God, it's this again. That because I'm at that calm kind of starting point, that's where we start from.
And has there been any time that, like maybe before you started working on your mindset, that you would think about you had a certain level of anxiety and you might avoid doing certain things because of the children's
absolutely. I really hit rock bottom. The house just looked like a bomb had hit. That I struggled to keep up with anything. I couldn't. I mean, sleep's still to this day a massive issue. I mean, I generally get between 4 and 5 hours a night if I'm lucky. Sometimes it's worse than that.
Do the boys sleep okay? How do the boys?
No, it's the boys. It is the boys. Particularly Elliot. But again, it's part of the condition apparently. So again, we've probably got this for life. That there will be an issue. So just again making sure that. So sorry, I was saying about kind of that I did just every day. I would get every day going, oh my God, here we go again. Like I've just got to get through it, and it was all about just surviving. It was about, and tired was kind of, I'm still tired now, but tired was kind of the overriding. I couldn't get past thinking that. I couldn't do anything. Like I was saying, I've sort of been going on course and stuff, but actually that's something I really love. I've always loved learning. I've always wanted to be proactive, but I literally couldn't do anything. I was like clawing my way through the day, just doing absolute minimum of what I could manage around kind of, and for the boys as well, that it wasn't good enough, that they could see that I was unhappy. And obviously it kind of spirals as well, that it just was a very, very stressful household, because everyone was at that point all the time.
And how did you did you take any kind of little steps to start working on them? What particularly did you start working on first in relation to your mindset and getting out of the spiral, I suppose, that you can go further down into?
I guess it's doing little bits for me, and I guess some of it was getting back to kind of stuff that I used to do for me, even really small things like I make sure I have 2 pints of water in the morning, which sounds like a daft thing, but like just making sure that's a good start for the day. It keeps everything working properly. It kind of starts that point of your body and your mind, and that's mine. It sounds a really weird thing, but it's mine, because every morning starts off with kind of sorting both of them out first. So getting to do that bit, it's mine. I can't really pinpoint where I started doing more as such. I guess one day I did just kind of look and go, actually, I think it was probably the first day I didn't sort of start with I'm tired. I was still tired, but I didn't start, like, that wasn't the overriding. It was, okay, what are we going to do today? What are we going to do to make it nice? And I guess it was as a family we really started doing, like the 3 of us. So I was like, okay, life is at least for living, so let's go out. So even if it was incredibly difficult to get us out the house, I made sure we then had a day out like every week.
And was that just pure? Would you say that was just your pure willpower? That
absolutely.
Just.
I say there was a moment I just kind of, okay, we can't do this anymore. Life has to be better. So I'm going to start with it being, these kids need to do more, I guess, than just survive. So going out for walks. I mean, nothing kind of massive, but I mean, I always found kind of playgroups and things incredibly stressful. But just doing stuff for us and finding things that worked for us. So we still now go on a walk very frequently, even if it's just kind of the local. There's like an old railway near us. So yeah, doing stuff like that.
And have you ever had to deal with at any point kind of the community in public, in comments, or being stared at? Has there been any issues where you've had to deal with any kind of anxiety management around that kind of?
All the time. Do you know what? Like, because one of my jobs previously was working helping people with disabilities and form filling, things like that, that you just don't realise until you're one of those parents. People can be really nasty. Like, I was so shocked at some of the stuff. I kind of touched briefly on playgroups there, that I just stopped going to them because some of the judgment. I mean, Elliot does have a raft of issues, and one of them was that he was sick quite often. He wasn't ill, but he was physically sick because he just couldn't cope with kind of what his stress and things. But even if I kind of give a heads up, the judgment used to get from people, or that kind of thing of they know better. So, well, he should be walking. Well, yeah, that would be lovely. Oh, he shouldn't be in a buggy. Well, that's fantastic. When he learns to walk, he'll get out the buggy. But I guess I'm quite strong in my boundaries as well. That kind of, this is probably something that's kind of gone through all my life. Is I'm a bit kind of either they don't matter or they do matter and they care. That I will just kind of, I'm not going to put up with it. But I mean, I do avoid some places because of that. But I kind of think they're probably not worth it.
So what kind of, when you've faced those situations, have you dwelled on it? Has it impacted on your well-being, or have you just thought, you know what, you can get on with life and I'll get on with mine?
I probably did at the time. Like I said, I really kind of, you have that kind of, it feels a bit bad to say, but you have that kind of moment of, what if it, like, wouldn't it be nice to have normal children, for want of a better word? But now, definitely not. Definitely, they're over there. It's their problem. It's nothing to do with me. And I want that to be part of my children too. I mean, we have had a few issues with bullying school, but I'm definitely trying to go with the, okay, well, it's their problem. It is not you. Like, it's all about acceptance of everything and everyone. And that's kind of where I don't. Now I definitely don't. It is totally their problem. So when I was at rock bottom, it's just kind of, it's another thing adding, rather than it being kind of a focus of my anxiety.
What would you say has been the biggest challenge of having some children with additional needs that you've had to overcome?
Probably remembering that I do have to look after me. That you get so focused. And I say I reached burnout and rock bottom, and that's not good for any of us. That actually making sure that, and it's quite a hard thing to change in your mind, because as any parent, your kids come first. You want the best for them, but when so much is needed, it's really easy to just forget that you matter at all.
Yeah.
So getting over that was the biggest thing. And it does sound a bit selfish, I know that, but it really isn't, because I'm a better parent. They get more of me, they get more time, they get to do more, the house is calm, and everything is better. But it was a big leap to say that actually do stuff for yourself.
Yeah. So do you kind of have, would you do something every day to look after yourself, whether it's have a bath or read a book, or?
I said I kind of do go for like squeezing bits in, that it is the kind of 5 minute, like say, like I guess the school one's probably the biggest thing for me, because obviously once I've dropped off, it's a 15-minute walk back, and they're mine. They're my 15 minutes to have my thoughts, to kind of look around me, to just kind of be calm. And obviously it kind of has multiple things, because it's giving me exercise, I'm getting to look around.
It's using the time productively then, isn't it? It's being.
Yeah. I mean, I put in the car, but actually that's kind of my time to do that.
It's like appreciating every moment. I'm a big audio book fan, so because my daughter's usually asleep when she's in the car, so it's when I can just listen to a book.
I do stick stuff on my phone sometimes, kind of as I'm doing stuff. Like if I love cooking. That's probably one of my things again. And the kids are pretty good at kind of staying out the kitchen, so that's kind of a good time. And again, I guess it's finding the things to do that you need to do anyway. But I mean, again, I could cook easier.
Yeah.
the masses of books that are behind me.
So how did the Dancing in the Rain come about? Tell us about that.
I guess it's probably, again, it's part of the journey that I kind of realised that there's probably a lot more people like me out there. And it's taken me quite a lot of effort to find the stuff that I want, like that I wanted that could fit into my life, that was easy to sort of 5-minute stuff, or just even finding the basic information that would work for carers. It seems to be really limited. Like, it actually started with me putting kind of posts out, searches out, things like that, trying to find what I needed, before I realised that actually no one was doing it.
Yeah.
There's quite a lot of parent support out there, so it'd be kind of question. I mean, obviously I'm in a lot of the groups where you sort of the stuff for the children that you're kind of asking questions about, what about this situation or that situation. But as far as actual caring for you in a way that works for your life, that's obviously got all of these other things going on, it just seemed really, really limited. So that was kind of where I started.
I mean, I agree. Like, from working in services over the years, it's always the child that's the focus, and actually it's about the family unit itself, isn't it? And about everybody's well-being, and making sure that everybody in the household is, yes, you can treat the child with the additional needs in whatever way, shape or form, depending on the profession, but as well it's making sure that the parents or the brothers and the sisters, because everybody's affected, and it's making sure that support's there for them. So what exactly do you do in the Dancing in the Rain?
So it's still quite new. So there's a page that kind of it's just a kind of general positivity. I'll put kind of quick mindfulness ideas, little self-care ideas, things around journaling, that kind of thing on the page, and obviously that's public. The group is a bit more of a support group, so it's kind of look at parents looking to find that positivity. So literally looking at what's been positive in your day, or if they've had something happen in their lives that they want to kind of shout about, that kind of thing. Bringing people into the group. So a lot of it's been about finding ways that work. So I'm trying to bring quite a lot of people into the group that can, again, give them sort of short hints and tips. I mean, I'm not an expert in all areas, obviously, so bringing people in to make sure. So every single household's different, every single child's different, every single situation's different. So kind of having somewhere that you can pick a mix, I guess, and pull out, so just loads of ideas about how that will work for you, and making sure that you find the self-care that works for you, mindfulness if it works for you, and just pulling that out so that you can have that kind of, so that you can find that sort of level of calm.
And how do you juggle the time, having children with additional needs and running a business? How do you juggle it all?
So probably the most time I spend on it is I can't leave the room while I settle in, for a number of reasons, which can take up to an hour. So in that hour, because I sit on the floor at the end of the bed and I'm on my phone doing stuff online while they're settling for sleep. Although I have had my phone stolen the last couple of nights and thrown across the room by one of them. But anyway, so that one kind of gets done every evening, and then just that kind of, I mean, it's the fact that they've gone back to school, honestly, has been a huge thing.
Yeah.
So making sure within that I kind of to manage that, and obviously it's given me a lot more time to, well, not a lot more time, but time to do it, to have it together where you're not kind of just squidging everything in, to kind of develop it into more.
So you mentioned a little bit of behaviour that you get there. How do you manage the behaviour in the home, and how do you manage you after a behaviour has occurred?
So the house is a very safe space as a general rule, because Elliot particularly does not understand anything. He has no idea of consequences or danger or anything else. So the house is set up in a pretty, like, everything kind of is in a place. So if anything's even vaguely dangerous, it's locked away. There's child locks everywhere. There's gates. There's to make sure the home is safe. And then I kind of, because it's obviously been going on for some time, I have kind of a list in my head of how we do it. So Elliot's probably biggest thing is screaming. So it's just kind of working through the list to deal with that. He requires a lot of supervision. If he's at home, you have to know where he is. He's never kind of doing something on his own, really. So just making sure that as far as me, I'm pretty calm most of the time. Again, that's a big part of it for me, is that because I have a base level, that I'm not kind of kicking off. I obviously have a breaking point, at which point I will take myself off and calm myself down.
And how do you do that? Do you do some deep breathing?
Meditation's a big part of that for me. If I can get a full 5 minutes, that's great. If I can't quite get the full 5 minutes, my garden is always my place to go. I can just go out there, I can take some breaths. I go out nearly every morning now and have just a walk around on my own for 2 or 3 minutes. And that, yeah, my garden's totally my sanctuary to kind of just breathe.
Yeah, just have a bit you time.
Yeah.
Which every parent needs, but particularly obviously with children with additional needs, it's even more important than any other time, isn't it? Particularly if you've got challenging behaviour occurring and things, that life can be unpredictable.
Life is very unpredictable in this house.
Have you had to, because you mentioned environmental changes, have you had to put any specific routines in for the boys to help their independence?
It's quite hard, because obviously we've had a few questions lately sort of looking at assessments, that who's the routine, like, because obviously some of it's for one and some of it's for the other, and sometimes it's opposite to each other. So yeah, we are pretty routine based. And then sometimes not, I kind of make a point of some of it not being, because if there's too much routine and that changes, whereas if there isn't a bit, if that makes any sense, then it means we do have some opportunity to do something else, as long as I kind of,
It's teaching just that little bit of flexibility of thought, isn't it? And it gives you, make sure that you don't have too much behaviour if there is a change. The change does occur sometimes.
They're both really sensory as well, so we have quite a lot of kind of sensory things for them to do, and no kind of to encourage them doing that, or doing it for them. I mean, so again, they're quite opposite, so we do have some issues around that. Like, one of them really likes loud music and one really hates loud music, so that's gonna be quite challenging.
How do you manage situations like that? How do you
well, I'm lucky enough to have a couple of rooms that I can use, so we never have loud music. Or if I've got one of them, which obviously doesn't happen very often, but if I've only got one of them, that obviously that makes an exception. But yeah, there's quite a few kind of opposites.
What would you say, Hazel? What would you give parents, the biggest bit of advice that you would give either parents just going through a diagnosis or just going through a tough time? What would your biggest bit of advice be?
Remember you, because you are the most important thing to your kids, and so you have to be on top form. It's not selfish, it's doing the best thing for them and having you in the best place to deal with everything that's going on.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Hazel. So where can we find out more about Dancing in the Rain?
So we have a page which is Dancing in the Rain UK. There's a group which is attached to the page, so that's kind of for UK parents with kids with any additional needs, and it's just a place for support and sports or anything you want to tuck in there. We kind of make sure we keep it a positive space. I'm on Instagram as well, and there is a website in development.
Brilliant. Right, well, and I will put a link on our page as well for that.
Lovely, thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Hazel.
Thank you so much.